fair girl advanced and bent over me till I could feel the movement of her breath upon me. Sweet it was in one sense, honey sweet, and sent the same tingling through the nerves as her voice, but with a bitter underlying the sweet, a bitter offensiveness, as one smells in blood. I was afraid to raise my eyelids, but I looked out and saw perfectly under the lashes. The girl went on her knees and bent over me, simply gloating. There was a deliberate voluptuousness which was both thrilling and repulsive. And as she arched her neck, she actually licked her lips like an animal, till I could see in the moonlight the moisture shining on the scarlet lips and on the red tongue as it lapped the white, sharp teeth. Lower and lower went her head as the lips went below the range of my mouth and chin, and seemed about to fasten on my throat. She paused, and I could hear the churning sound of her tongue as it licked her teeth and lips. I lay quiet, looking out under my eyelashes in an agony of delightful anticipation.
Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the sexiest show on the internet, the Dracula Podcast. I am your host, Lawrence Burgess, or LB for short. Thank you to Adam Stover, Rob and Martha of Southgate Media, Drake's Nest Entertainment, and most of all, you for listening. We aim to bring you thoughtful, stimulating media, the films, books, music, and plays that you love, the criticism to inform your purchasing decisions, interesting guests, and the needs of our communities. Drop us a line. You can find us at Dracula Audio on Twitter and Facebook. You can also find it. It's out. It's released via drakesnestentertainment.com. Dracula, the audio drama, released just 2 days ago. And right now we are at ShockaCon 2015 celebrating. And I'm here with my main man, my right hand, Adam Stover. Adam, how you feeling?
Hey.
So, we've been here at ShockaCon for 3 days, and we've met a lot of interesting people. What do you take out of this whole thing?
Well, this was my first experience at a con, so I kind of didn't know what to expect in terms of other vendors, and just as the patrons as well, just as people coming in, what the attitudes would be, what people would be like. And it was a real pleasant surprise how nice everyone has been and personable, and very complimentary to what we're doing, which is really nice.
I would think that in the horror community there would be a lot more egos. I mean, there are one or two here, of course, but most people have been really kind and really friendly, and that's what I really took away out of it. And also here we have the star of Dracula, the audio drama, Ethan Livers. Ethan, how you feeling today?
Feeling great, loving life.
So, you've been at ShockaCon for a couple days, and you've had the atmosphere, the experiences. Is there anything that you've really enjoyed or can take away from this?
I think I enjoy the community of it. It seems that everyone comes together and respects each other's art, which is not something you get often, but it's definitely something unique to hear. And seeing all the big names and the smaller names together in harmony, it's a great thing.
It really is. As I said before, egos are very small here. Everyone's dressed up in costume, good music, having a good time. There's beer. We're sitting across the table from beer, and there are children. Everyone's in harmony all at the same time. We got people dressed up like the Teen Titans. There's Raven right there. How you doing? And we got the West Virginia Ghostbusters right next door here in Charleston, West Virginia. And I know conventions take place all over the country. You've got your big ones. You got your Dragon Con. You got your Wizard World, and you've got the one out in San Diego. But what does ShockaCon specifically here in West Virginia have to offer that not a lot of people might know?
Well, the panelists. One thing is that the experience that the panelists have is a very positive thing. I don't want to mention other conventions that people have gone to and had less than wonderful experiences. But practically everyone that's been on stage over the past 3 days has said that, kind of what separates this is the attitude of the patrons, as well as the everybody that puts it on. There's a real kind of team atmosphere, and apparently you don't get that everywhere you go. So.
You're exactly right. And there's also great people here. There's great artists like Chris Woodall. Chris Woodall did our poster for Dracula, the audio drama. He's done great things with Marvel and DC Comics, as well as his Universal Studios Monsters franchise. And what I found here, folks, is a real sense of community. So if you're in the Charleston, West Virginia area around the middle of September, please come to ShockaCon. That being said, I am so proud that Dracula the audio drama is now released and available for download via drakesnestentertainment.com. And the quality of the thing, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of my actors and my crew and everyone involved, all the way down to the volunteers. I'm so appreciative of the effort. Adam, you've heard the final product. You've heard it. You've heard all the music. You've been with it all the way. If you could sum it up in a couple sentences, what is it?
It wouldn't even take that many. I wouldn't have to use that many words. The word that jumps out at me is cinematic, almost like your motion picture experience, and that's due to the combination of multiple voice actors, not a single person reading the book all the way through. Even someone that's really good at that can get a bit monotonous, and you have a lot of change in venue in terms of voice with this. But then you add the sound effects, which are done very tastefully, and Greg Hunt's incredible music. For me, that makes it a full experience as opposed to something that's a little bit more on the dry side.
Blood and Bloom will be also available around Halloween. That is our companion soundtrack with tracks like Infernal, the main theme, and the Lucy Suite. You can't go wrong there. But the thing that really drove this is our talent, and Ethan has a really interesting perspective on that. I taught a class yesterday about Voice Acting 101, and we went into the psychology and the feelings of it. When you were doing Jonathan Harker, there were moments like the castle which resonated with you. Did you have to use sense memory, or were the words there? What helped you bring that out in your character?
Well, I think the big thing was understanding who Jonathan was first, and understanding how a place like that could affect him. And then, yeah, I did absolutely use a bit of sense memory and my own experience as an analytical person myself. I understood how he tries to control and categorize and organize things, and that really struck a chord with me, just how he reacts to everything he's given.
Absolutely. And one of the things we emphasize here at Drake's Nest Entertainment and Dracula the audio drama is we emphasize quality over quantity. We emphasize great stories, and the way to bring them to life is actually through rich audio, multiple voice actors, sound effects, voice talent. Also the original soundtrack. It's unlike an experience you've ever had, because what we do here is we tell great stories. We bring them to life. We want other people's vision to come out. And for the first time in history, and Bram Stoker's book has been out since 1897, for the first time in history, we have the definitive version of Dracula, because Dracula has been done to death. He's the second most recorded and filmed character behind Sherlock Holmes. Yet to this day, Dracula resonates. He's still on shows like Penny Dreadful. He's still there because of his presence and his uniqueness and how he's transcended media. But he's never been done right until now. Why?
Well, one of the things about Dracula is it's such a mythology, and the myth and the fable of it lends to so many different interpretations. And you can take it in so many different directions. So that's the thing about Dracula, is that it's one of those things where the multitude of options is what makes it difficult, because you can go, sexier, you can go bloodier, more animalistic, you can do it he's more of a seducer. So, you really have to go that direction, and a lot of people have taken it in sexier directions because, sex sells and all that. So, in the novel, he's a bit more on the older side, a bit more, not the suave character that, there's moments in the 92 version, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, where You know, he's kind of a smooth prince, and you don't really kind of see that in the novel. So, you know, it's staying true to Stoker's original vision, you know. But the genius of his original vision is that it's open to interpretation, and people can take it and run different directions with it, and it still works, you know.
It does. There have been very effective versions, like the 1931 version, of course, the Frank Langella in 1979, and what you and I grew up with was the 1992 version with Francis Coppola. But it hasn't been done right, and like we've discussed before on this podcast, is Universal could not afford to do the book back in the 30s. So they could afford to do the Balderson Dean play. Yeah. And that's what people know. They know the blah, 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 and the tuxedo and the capes and all that kind of stuff. And it's a shame.
Lugosi's stage play. Lugosi's, you know, his performance as a stage actor. And that's something, you know, Lawrence, he did that all the way up into the 1950s even, you know, in London at Shepherd's Bush Auditorium in London, England. Early 50s, he was still doing Dracula as a play. And that was the, you know, a lot of people's, you know, at least up until 92, that's kind of what they thought of as Dracula, and where the story comes from, and the choices and interpretations kind of came from, you know, the Todd Browning version.
All right, folks, we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back at you with the Dracula podcast. Thank you.
What is it, Captain? What is it?
After a few seconds, he rushed up on deck with his flannels. He looked wild-eyed and haggard. I greatly fear his reasons has given way. He came close to me and whispered hoarsely with his mouth to my ear, as though fearing the very air might hear.
It is here. I know it now. On the watch last night, I saw it, like a man, tall and thin and ghastly pale. It was in the bows, and looking out, I crept up behind it, gave it my knife. But my knife went through it, empty as the air.
As he spoke, he took his knife and drove it savagely into space. Then he went on.
But it is here, and I'll find it. It is in the hold, perhaps in one of those boxes. I'll unscrew them one by one and see. And see. You work the hell.
All right, folks, we're back at the Dracula podcast. My compatriot Adam Stover just had his name called, so apparently he just gave birth. And he's running over to the Suddenlink booth to grab his prize, whatever it may be. Whether it's coupons to a strip club or whether it's free beer, who knows. But Adam Stover just won a prize here at ShockaCon. But now we are here at the Dracula podcast. Once again, Dracula the audio drama is available for download today. DrakesNestEntertainment.com. He's all there. Perfect quality audio. And the thing that stands apart about this production is the actors and the life and the soul they put into this thing. You heard from Ethan Livers himself. He goes line by line and he analyzes it, and he takes very good care of his craft and doing justice. So Ethan, you just finished Dracula. What are you doing these days?
Well, I'm pursuing a BFA in theater performance at Marshall University. Getting great experience there, learning more, training more, working with Meisner technique and Alexander, Michael Chekhov, things of that nature to really understand and flesh out, get a broader education as far as my craft is concerned.
So if people want to come and see you or find you, how do they do that?
Well, you can go to Marshall University, Google it, and find their site and look at the upcoming shows. If you are a student at Marshall University, the admission is free for any theater performance, and they'll be listed on there. There's a calendar online.
So 10 years from now, everything goes right and you have your way, and it probably will. What do you want to do?
Direct Shakespeare, direct plays, musicals, all sorts of things. Work a lot with Shakespeare and hopefully be in New York.
Excellent ambition. All right, now we're heading into our subcast, Casting Dread, the Penny Dreadful Show. Adam, Season 2 is over. And spoiler alert, We're going to spoil the show for you a little bit. If you haven't seen the last episode, stop right now, watch Penny Dreadful. Don't buy DVD, that's garbage. Buy the Blu-ray. We've already discussed this quite a bit on the podcast. So we've had a few deaths.
Yeah.
Sembeni is gone.
Yes. Yeah.
Madame Cowley, Evelyn Poole, is also gone.
Yes.
So other survivors, were you surprised that one of the mains didn't die, like Ethan Chandler or Ava Green? You can't have Penny Dreadful without Ava Green.
No way.
But what about someone else? Were you surprised that one of them didn't bite the bullet?
Yeah. I thought the what they've shown over the course of these first couple seasons is they are not afraid to pull the big shocker. So I thought personally that at the end of season 2, Ethan was going to end up, in some sort of possibly, due to a transformation, his problem with that he would be put down by one of the other cast members, and that would create kind of a psychodrama effect that he would launch into the next season. But, it didn't turn out that way. Unfortunately, a character that, we were just kind of getting to know a little bit because of his relationship with Ethan did have to pass away, unfortunately.
That really stinks because I don't know if it's a trend. It's kind of like George R.R. Martin, but on a different level. We get to know Van Helsing, and then he goes away. Yeah. We get to know the Renfield type character, and then he goes away. And then we also Proteus. After episode 2, he's gone. So with this trend being set up, do you see any other characters possibly in the future biting the bullet? We've got a new alliance forming between Dorian Gray and Brona Croft, or now Lily Frankenstein. Yeah. Do you see anything like that possibly going in the future?
I think with the Lily character, and this is just pure me supposing and wondering and thinking, but and it's total conjecture, but I can kind of see there is maybe a little bit of evil upon her return to life that wasn't there with Ethan when she was alive. She's brought back something with her, I feel like, that there's a little seed of darkness within her that may end up becoming something that has to be dealt with, possibly even leading up to a death. I don't know, but something's going to happen with that. I don't know how far it's going to go, but something's going to have to happen with that. That has to be resolved.
I'm really surprised Victor Frankenstein has lasted as long as he has, because with Proteus and with the creature and everyone else, I'm shocked actually, and eventually his sins are coming to roost. I mean, we all have light and darkness within us, and that's the part of the show. And there's Elvira. She's just walking right by us. Amazing. Looking very sexy and gorgeous. But what Penny Dreadful brings to the screen is duality. And what is it about it besides the literary aspects? Why do people continue to like it? It's a show that's well respected in the community, but not a lot of people know about. But it's growing and growing and growing. Why is it on such a positive upturn?
I think what they've done most successfully is they've been able to weave multiple narratives together in a way that is fairly seamless, and they can deal with the storylines from certain characters and have others in the background for a while, and then bring those forward. And the kind of seamless transition between it has to be half a dozen different narratives. The way they've been able to do that and do it successfully, I think you're appealing to a lot of different people, even if you're not necessarily a Frankenstein fan. Maybe you're, more of a werewolf person, or, Dorian Gray, for that matter. So there's a lot of different areas that they touch upon, and we're always, we're going back to dealing with those primal things. It's life and death, and all the stuff that lies in between it. So, I think that they're just doing a really good job of putting that all together at the same time. It's not an easy task.
Two last things. Did you see Ethan Chandler as Lawrence Talbot? Did you see that coming?
No, absolutely not. No, hey, that's one of my favorite things about the show is just when I think I know exactly where it's going, it throws a curveball. And that's for someone who considers himself to be practically jaded as a viewer, where I know all the twists and turns, you're not going to fool me. And they're always managing to pull a surprise or two that is really, quite delightful. So.
My favorite part of the season, and I think yours was too, was the revelation of the Verbus Diablo. That not only does Lucifer exist, but Dracula exists, and they are brothers. Lucifer in hell and Dracula on earth. What do you think about that twist? And if you actually read Stoker's narrative about the Scholomance and his speech specifically, that ties into Stoker.
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing about the language aspect of that was they didn't make it a language with a set of words or whatever. It was a combination of language and different elements that have to be interpreted a certain way for you to understand it. So there was a level of complexity to the thought of that is very interesting and dynamic.
I totally agree. Well, folks, that was Casting Dread, the Penny Dreadful Sudcast. We'll be right back at you with the Dracula podcast, right here from ShockaCon 2015.
So, let me try to be alert. I'll be like, so I'm like testifying right, and then like, so like a dog was like, whoo, whoo, and like kill three people. I could.
19 July. We are progressing. My friend has now a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated.
When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a great favor. A very, very great favor. And as he spoke, he fawned at me like a dog. I asked him what it was.
A kitten. A nice little sleek, playful kitten that I can play with and teach and feed and feed and feed.
All right, we're back at the Dracula podcast. My friend and yours is right here. Please introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Sam Canterbury.
And what do you do here, Sam?
I am one of the bartenders.
You also do something else. Rumor has it that you were on stage last night, regaling people with tales?
Yeah, it was pretty much a tequila-filled night. So I got up and did some things, made some people laugh. Today, that was really cool. We did some tongue tacos. We cooked some cow tongue and showed some people some beef hearts or cow hearts. So.
What makes ShockaCon different from the other places that you have to go and perform?
I think it's the open venue. I mean, a lot of times we're performing in bars, and so it's kind of, you get the heckling, you get the people who are drinking. But here, I mean, you have like a close knit of people, even though there are others out and about kind of talking amongst themselves. It's still, you have a select group of audience that's paying attention to you, and so you can kind of engage. The other thing is the lights. Like, I like that the lights are up because I can see everybody, and then I can talk to them one-on-one, because that's pretty much what my comedy style is. Just I engage people one-on-one.
So, Sam, you've been very successful in podcasting, and you also are really well known in the community. If people want to get in touch with you to find out what you're doing, how do they do that?
All right, they can check me out on Facebook at Sam Canterbury. My podcast name is Charleston Comedy Podcast. Look us up on Facebook. We are live on Wednesdays, blogtalkradio.com/Charleston Comedy.
Just proof, ladies and gentlemen, that they are kind, wonderful people right here in Charleston, West Virginia, and the best. Sam, thank you for your time.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on here.
Thank you.
I was looking at a very beautiful girl in a big cartwheel hat, sitting in a Victoria outside Giuliano's, when I felt Jonathan clutch my arm so tight that he hurt me, and he said under his breath,
My God.
I am always anxious about Jonathan, for I fear that some nervous fit may upset him again. So I turned to him quickly and asked him what it was that disturbed him. He was very pale, and his eyes seemed bulging out as if half in terror, half in amazement. He gazed at a tall, thin man with a beaky nose and black moustache and pointed beard, who was also observing the pretty girl. He was looking at her so hard that he did not see either of us, and so I had a good view of him. His face was not a good face. It was hard and cruel and sensual, and his big white teeth, that looked all the whiter because his lips were so red, were pointed like an animal's. Jonathan kept staring at him, till I was afraid he would notice. I feared he might take it ill. He looked so fierce and nasty. I asked Jonathan why he was disturbed, and he answered, evidently thinking that I knew as much about it as he did.
Do you see who it is?
No, dear. I don't know him. Who is it? His answer seemed to shock and thrill me, for it was said as if he did not know that it was to me, Nina, to whom he was speaking.
It is the man himself.
All right, we're back at the Dracula podcast here at ShockaCon 2015. I'm here with my friend and yours, Chris Woodall. Chris, how you doing?
Very good, very good.
You've been at ShockaCon a lot. Why do you come back?
Because I love it, and it's awesome, and every year it gets better and better.
What makes this year better than others?
I don't know, we had really, really awesome guests. I mean, we always did, but this year they were just all super, super nice, real friendly. And I don't know, it's always a good vibe here. Everybody's having fun, laughing, in a great mood. It just gets better every year because I think it's almost, I don't know how to put that. It's definitely a family thing, but it's growing too. So I guess as the event grows, so does the overall feeling of it. I don't know.
This is a sci-fi and horror convention, but that being said, there are very few egos here, and there's tons of kind people.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think a big part of it probably is it's a whole bunch of people in the same room that all like the same type of stuff. And I feel like generally, for the most part, most people that like cool stuff tend to be cool people.
Fair enough. Chris, you've done great work. How do people get in touch with you and follow you and see what you're going to do next and where you're going to be?
They can check out my MySpace page. No, I don't have one of those. Well, I'll probably still have that somewhere. I am on Facebook. I haven't made a separate art page on Facebook yet, but I need to. I said the same thing last year and I still haven't done it, but I'm going to do it.
All right, Chris, we're holding your word to it right here. But this is Chris Woodall, 2015 ShockaCon. Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back at you, the Dracula Podcast, right back.
Your true friends around you, and that we pray for you all the time.
Go on. Tell me what I am to do.
Take this stake in your left hand, ready to place the point over the heart, and the hammer in your right. Then, when we begin our prayer for the dead, I shall read him, and I have here the book, and the other shall follow. Strike in God's name, that so all may be well with the dead that we love, and that the undead pass away.
Arthur took the stake and the hammer, and once his mind was set on action, his hands never trembled, nor even quivered. Van Helsing opened his missile and began to read, and Quincy and I followed as well as we could. Arthur placed the point over the heart, and as I looked, I could see its dint in the white flesh.
Then he struck with all his might.
Requiem aeternam Donae.
All right, we're back at the Dracula Podcast. I am here with the lovely Rose Winland. Rose, how are you today?
Fantastic.
What is your role here at ShockaCon?
I'm sort of the public face of ShockaCon in a lot of ways. I get up on the stage and assist, but I also do a bunch of the brunt work as well, putting out tables and, tablecloths and just the general mom type duties.
A few years ago when you started this, what did you have in mind down the road? 5 years, 10 years? What was your thought of the vision of the thing?
Well, it's kind of exactly where we're at right now. We started out as a free event just to introduce the notion to the community around the mound in South Charleston under tents, and we really had no idea what to expect when the word hit the street, and we had so many people come out that first time. And then moved to a half indoor, half outdoor, shared with the Haunted Barn, of course, in the last 2 years here fully indoors, other than the hearses, of course, for the last 2 years. And we've just seen a steady bit of growth, and this year is shaping up to be not only our best year as far as attendance, and the numbers aren't fully run yet, but we know they're looking very good. But it's also been, I think, our best year as far as our volunteer team. We're just a well-oiled machine, and we were able to kind of pull off all these things happening all over the place at the same time pretty seamlessly. I mean, our volunteers have done a kick-butt job.
I also agree. Why do people like sci-fi and horror? There's a really tight-knit community around here. What draws them to you and to this convention? What is that?
I think there's, everybody's different and has their own very unique spin on what calls them to it. But I would say that as far as I think fear is a universal kind of high that people get. And that's why we like roller coasters and why we like scary movies. And and then after somebody jumps at us and we almost pee ourselves, then we laugh for a while, because it's just like this certain hormones flowing in the body. it's stressful in a way, but it's fun in a whole another way. So I think that's a big part of it. But then I also think that everybody likes a chance and needs a chance to fly their freak flag every now and then. And I think coming to events like this gives people just a good opportunity to get out of their shell, get out of their day-to-day lives, and be something entirely different, do something entirely different. So I always say, you know, a lot of people I think cons in general of all kinds, gaming cons and fan cons and LARPing cons, a lot of it is getting together with people that are your people. And every time we come here every year, we become this, I know so many people's names that I've just met them here. So they become it's like Christmas to me to do this every year because I get to hang out with 1,000 of my best friends.
Wild, wonderful, warm, weird. ShockaCon 2015. I'm here with the queen herself, Rose Winland. Rose, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
But there, you can't trust wolves no more nor women.
Don't you mind him, sir?
Broke in Mrs. Tom with a cheery laugh.
He's gone minding the animals so long that blessed if he ain't like an old wolf himself. But there ain't no harm in him.
Well, sir, it was about 2 hours after feeding yesterday when I first heard the disturbance. I was making up a litter in the monkey house for a young puma which is ill. But when I heard the yelping and howling, I came away straight. There was Bastica tearing like a mad thing at the bars as if he wanted to get out. There wasn't much people about that day, and close at hand was only one man, a tall, thin chap with a hooked nose and a pointed beard with a few white hairs running through it. He had a hard, cold look and red eyes, and I took a sort of mislike to him, for it seemed as if it was him that the animals were getting irritated at. He had white kid gloves on his hands, and he pointed out the animals to me and says,
Keeper, these wolves seem upset at something.
Maybe it's you, says I, for I did not like the airs as he gave himself. He didn't get angry as I hoped he would, but he smiled with a kind of insolent smile, with a mouth full of white, sharp teeth.
Oh no, they wouldn't like me,
he says. Oh yes they would, says I, imitating of him. They always like a bone or two to clean their teeth on about tea time, which you has a bag full. Well, it was an odd thing, but when the animals see us talking, they lie down. And when I went over to Basika, he let me stroke his ears same as ever. That there man came over, and blessed but if he didn't put his hand and stroke the old wolf's ears too. Take care, says I. Basika is quick. Never mind, he says. I'm used to him. Are you in the business yourself? I says, taking off my hat. For a man what trades in wolves, etc., is a good friend to keepers.
No, not exactly in the business, but I have made pets of several.
All right, folks, we're back at the Dracula podcast, and I'm here with Matt Fraser of American Horror Story Freak Show. Matt, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
ShockaCon, Charleston, West Virginia. You've been to cons all over the country, and you've had fans, hundreds and thousands, email you and write you. How do we differ from everywhere else?
Well, this differs obviously from its size. You know, the last two cons were 70,000 and 25,000 respectively, and I think maybe 1,000 people came through the doors this weekend, but everybody came to the same event and did the same thing, so there's a huge sense of community. And actually, I had a much better time here than I've had at any of the other cons, because I've actually got to talk to people and get to know them a little bit. Plus, I'm an old punk rocker, and there's been like 3 punk bands playing. I must say, I think the Cryptoids are a fantastic band, one to watch out for, and the Renfields, you can't ask for a better punk party than them. My particular favourite was the Elephant Man on bass. I've had the best time ever, man, and you don't get to say that. Normally this is kind of work for me, but once the signing has switched off at 7 or 8 or whenever it's been, I have just really enjoyed the company of the lovely people of West Virginia, particularly Charleston, and I feel, finally, that obviously as a collection of all the horror and weirdo fans in the town, I've probably met all the coolest people in Charleston in one go.
I found that people are really warm and welcome and kind, and there's not a lot of egos here. When you go to conventions, is this more or less the case?
Well, I mean, the people that make the conventions and frequent the conventions are similarly egoless. Maybe the same can't be said of some of the stars at some of the events. You know what they say, a real star is really, really friendly. The ones who give you the star treatment usually aren't quite as big a star as they'd like to believe. I saw precious little of that, but, you know, I've seen it from time to time.
Matt, you got a lot of fans out there. What are you going to do next, and how can people keep in touch with you?
Well, you can keep in touch with me by following me on my Twitter, at Matt_Fraser, or my fan page, Matt Fraser on Facebook. where you get updates of everything I'm doing and everything. And the next thing I'm doing, funny enough, I've just got the filming dates yesterday. I'm going to be in this new film called Hellstorm. I'm playing a part of a ruined businessman barfly, so I'm really looking forward to that. And it's a post-apocalyptic dystopian type of gates of hell have opened type film with some really nice names in it. I shouldn't say who, because I think it'll like jinx it in some way. But that should be out. We're filming in November in Ohio, so that should be out by mid-year next year.
Mr. Fraser, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And once again from ShockaCon, this is the Dracula Podcast.
Come, sister, come to us.
In fear, I turned to my poor Madamina, and my heart of his gladness leapt like flame. For oh, the terror in her sweet eyes, the repulsion, the horror told a story to my heart that was all of hope. God be saint, she was not yet of sin. I seized some of the firewood which was by me, and holding out some of the wafer, advanced on them towards the fire. They drew back before me and laughed their low, horrid laugh. Back, away, say I! In the name of God the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, remove yourselves from this so hallowed circle. Begone, you evil vampires! Hellcats, I rebuke thee, you hosts of darkness! Remove yourselves! Begone, you vile creatures of hell! I banish thee, hosts of darkness, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Be gone!
All right, kids, we're back at the Dracula Podcast. This is Lawrence Burgess. We're wrapping up from ShockaCon 2015. I see the table sitting down and people starting to go home, and I have a lot to take away from this. Most of all, the sense of community and friendship. As I said before, there can be a lot of egos in the entertainment industry, and most of it's not earned. But as you said before from our friends from American Horror Story, that there's really kind, warm, and wonderful people out there. And it's that hope, it's that sense of community, and it's that sense of kindness which brings us all together. And things like ShockaCon here in Charleston, West Virginia, it's a wonderful place to express yourself, to get out with friends, and really enjoy some great music. We're not kidding about that. The music here has been awesome, from blasting James Brown and the Rolling Stones over the speakers at the beginning to the great punk bands in the afternoon and evening. It's a wonderful place to come. There are wonderful art vendors like Chris Woodall. There's great actors. You got Rose Winland. There are just all sorts of different personalities here, and when they come together, you have something very special. And I'm glad to be a part of that. I'm glad that Dracula is now done. I've been talking and teasing about it for a long time, but it's available for purchase on our website at drakesnestentertainment.com. And Penny Dreadful, Season 3, has been renewed. Patti LuPone coming back as Dr. Seward in a female form, which is very interesting. So it could go a bunch of different directions. But ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate it. I'm sorry I have been gone so long. I have been editing. I have been stuck in the editing chair and doing post-production, and now I can come back and share my experiences with you and you with me, and I'm so appreciative for the opportunity. Once again, thank you to Rob and Martha of Southgate Media, to Adam Stover, to Drake's Nest Entertainment, and most of all, ladies and gentlemen, for you for listening. And the most important thing, above all else, ladies and gentlemen, here from ShockaCon 2015, to you and yours, have a most wonderful and excellent day.
I tremble, and tremble even yet, so till all was over. God be saint, my nerve did stand. Had I not seen the repose in the first place, and the gladness that stole over it just as the final dissolution came, as realization that the soul had been won, could not have gone further with my butchery. Oh, righteous God, release this poor creature's soul to thy care. God in heaven, could not have endured the horrid screeching as the stake drove home, the plunging of rising foam, and lips of bloody foam. I should have fled in terror and left my work undone. Oh, my child, I will release you from this curse. Ah!